Hey friends, my name is Antoinette Chanel and welcome back to my channel. So InStyle recently did a profile on Princess Diana of Wales, and I wanted to take a look at that article together because I think that it allows me to do something that I've been wanting to do for a long time on this channel, which is give a reminder as to why Meghan Markle has so many critics and snarkers out here. It's not just because people want to hate on a woman of color. It's not just because people are jealous of her. It's because since the moment that we met her, she and Harry have been so committed to making sure that we, the public, accept Meghan as one thing specifically, Diana-like. And as it became clear when Meghan began her royal duties, when she was still in the royal family and she and Harry were living in Frogmore Cottage, as it became clear that she was nothing like Diana, I believe that that's where a lot of the pushback that ended up fueling Megxit came from. So first, let's take a look at this profile that was done in InStyle, and this was printed on October 23rd, 2025. I'm not going to read this whole article to you in this video. If you want to see the entire article, I've linked it in the description box below, but I do want to go through the sections that I highlighted and give some commentary points on just what I know of Princess Diana and how I sort of perceive her legacy when it comes to appraising the Sussexes, specifically Meghan. And this profile in InStyle was written by Rachel Birchfield. Want to give credit to the author. Okay, so one of the first things that I highlighted in this story was the quote that states, "The former Princess of Wales went where the pain was, to those with leprosy and AIDS, to landmine victims, and to the homeless." And I believe that quote actually came from a book called Diana World and Obsession, written by Edward White. So when I reflect on Princess Diana and her legacy, I always picture her holding some child or embracing some person who is in need. And that's because in my lifetime as a millennial, Princess Diana was one of the first people to be photographed touching an AIDS patient, touching children in the continent of Africa who have all sorts of diseases that they probably didn't have cures for at the time, and largely carrying herself as somebody who is not as royal-like as her position might garner. You would think that somebody who has the title of princess would not be caught dead mingling with just the commoners, especially not any of those who are sick and suffering with disease. But Princess Diana was never ever above that. She made it a point to make sure that she was photographed touching people who were sick, touching people who were in need. And I'm really struck by the humanity of that. You know, what better way to demonstrate to your fellow humans that it really is okay and we must come together to find a solution than to show yourself in the company of people who have been deemed other, who have been ostracized and cast out. Edward White goes on to explain that apparently Diana felt abandoned, rejected, and misunderstood herself. So therefore, she made sure to reach out and connect with those who she perceived were also being abandoned and rejected and similarly misunderstood. I think with the misunderstanding part, we can look at her friendship with Michael Jackson and see evidence of this. And that's just one example, but it's probably the more salient one that I can think of. Diana and Michael were close, and I believe that part of the reason that they were close was because they both recognized how the other one wasn't able to live as themselves, wasn't able to be as free as they wanted to, and might have been misunderstood. And through the course of her prominence in the public eye, we did see Diana work with the homeless, with those with leprosy. She worked to spread AIDS awareness and eradicating landmines, going towards those who were suffering and often overlooked. Now, what's interesting about the InStyle profile is that the author explains that Much like what we saw Meghan Markle go through when she first entered the royal family, Diana also struggled upon first entering the royal family. Edward White, the author of that Diana World book that I mentioned just a little bit ago, mentioned that Diana felt that there was a void in her life shortly after marrying Charles, and that she was lacking in direction as to what she should do to fill her days. Now, those who have followed the royals closely know that those first few, gosh, I don't even know what time period it was. I don't know if it was months or if it was years, but initially with Diana's struggles, she found herself often at odds with her husband, who would have been Prince Charles at the time. She found herself at odds with the Queen, Elizabeth, because she felt that the institution of the royal family was very limiting to what she wanted to do and be as a person. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I can understand that necessarily. I mean, I've never been part of a royal family before, but I guess I could see where that would be a bit of a shock and a stumbling point at first. But the important part, and I think what makes so many of us adore Diana so much, is that she didn't allow her story to stop at that. She didn't just say, okay, I'm married and I'm here now and I'm bored and I don't know what to do and these people are not being nice to me. Her answer to this void that she felt and this inability to fit in that she felt when she was in the royal family was to throw herself further into causes that she knew would benefit the world. This is a far cry from giving teary-filled statements to the media or from portraying herself as some sort of perpetual victim all the time. I do believe that Diana saw herself as a victim, but I don't think that she felt that the world owed her anything for being a victim. She was just unhappy with her victim status, but she also freed herself from that as well. Diana abandoned the royal protocol of wearing gloves because she liked to hold hands when visiting people or shake hands and have direct contact. That's a quote from Ellery Lynn, the curator of an exhibit on Diana's style, which she told that to People magazine. Diana is also quoted as saying that she stopped wearing hats because you can't cuddle a child in a hat. Diana's brother, the Earl Charles Spencer, has also said of Diana that she was very much about human contact. And apparently Diana had told her brother, I'm going to touch this gentleman, and you can all exist in a community with people who are suffering, and we must help. It shouldn't be understated just how much of a crisis the AIDS crisis was and just how little was being done about it at first. It was largely regarded as a disease that only affected homosexuals, and because homosexuals were seen as just too weird and too other and too outside of the norm, many people didn't care about the deaths that were happening from AIDS because they figured it's just the gay people that are dying. That doesn't impact me. It was once people realized through medical science proving it to us that it's not just gay people that get AIDS, but anybody can get AIDS, and this is how it's transmitted, primarily through sexual contact. That's when alarm bells started to be raised, but a lot of the approach and attitude towards AIDS took a long time to turn around. Look up the story of Ryan White if you want to get a sense for just how awful this was here in the United States. He's the most poignant example that I can point to. And ironically, both Diana and Michael Jackson also extended public kindness to Ryan White when he needed it the most. InStyle also explains that Diana would single out somebody, engage in conversation, and ask about their health, relationship, their dress, or whatever that would ricochet around the crowd. So she was someone who very much liked to approach common people and have regular conversations with them about the issues affecting their lives. The InStyle profile goes on to say that Diana was a large force for good, and that is her legacy. And then they sort of wrap up on the note that even though Diana changed the royal family with her actions and the way that she carried herself while she was a working royal and afterwards, she didn't set out necessarily to change the family. She set out to direct her energy and attention and her privilege towards the less fortunate so that she could have something to do, so she wasn't just sitting around bored, so that she could somehow give back to people who felt like they were misunderstood and ostracized because she herself felt that she had been misunderstood and ostracized. Now comes the part where I get to compare her to Meghan Markle. So let's move through the points. In terms of going to where the pain is, I would say that Meghan is good at going to where the pain is, but she's not very good at offering any sort of relief once she arrives at these painful spots. And I would point to her demeanor around the Los Angeles wildfires in 2025, as well as her demeanor abroad when she visits school children in third world countries. Next is the idea of embracing royal work. I just explained to you, as InStyle explained, that Diana embraced royal work, even the stuff that was unbecoming of a future queen. Meghan, on the other hand, is quoted as stating, "I can't believe I'm not getting paid for this," while on the job as a working royal. Homelessness, leprosy, AIDS awareness, and eradicating landmines. Those are all hot button issues that concerned Diana. The issues that seem to concern Meghan Markle are whether or not the public is being kind to her, or if they're beating up on her, you know, because she calls herself the most bullied woman on earth, suing publications who she has a disagreement with because she says that they were monitoring her, or they wrote salacious headlines about her that were also racially motivated and discriminatory. Protecting online spaces with things like the Parent Network and some of the other initiatives that she and Harry have headed up, although the impact of those is questionable. And then fighting institutional racism within the royal family, although I'm still looking for the evidence of who said what, who printed what, and how exactly she and Harry have been fighting that necessarily, other than to just leave and then go do some stupid interview on Oprah. Now, where they do have things in common are that both Diana and Meghan have abandoned royal protocol on their own terms. But when Diana does it, it manifests in the form of her holding on to infant babies in an orphanage in Africa somewhere. When Meghan does it, it looks like her baby being born with inaccurate details being recorded about him because she didn't want to give any information to the royal rota. In terms of human contact and mingling with the common man or woman, Meghan is recorded on record as leaving an event early that she was on for royal business. So this is while she was still in the royal family. She bailed out of an event early because she saw that UN Women was present, and she demanded that they not be present at an event that she was going to be at. She also demanded that she not be photographed anywhere near UN Women, and that didn't happen either. During one of the foreign visits that Meghan and Harry took, I think it was to Nigeria. I'll put it in post if not. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Colombia. But when they were being presented with sort of an honor from the locals there, they tried to get Harry and Meghan to participate in a dance with them. And you can see very clearly Meghan and Harry shutting that down, and the organizer of maybe not the event, but of that section of the event looks visibly dejected and insulted by their demeanor. They couldn't even humor her with a simple two-step. And most recently, Meghan recorded herself going through the same tunnel in Paris that Diana's car accident occurred in because she was attending Fashion Week in Paris. Now, it's been widely speculated that Meghan was not invited to any sort of event at Fashion Week in Paris. She just popped up there without an invite. I am speculating that she probably thought, ooh, if I can be seen at Fashion Week in Paris, get this cute little clip through this tunnel where I know my mother-in-law died, and I know that InStyle is gonna come out with this profile soon, then all of the favorable comparisons between me and Diana, this mythical mother-in-law who I've never met but I claim to know personally, those can just continue and be ramped up, and it'll be great for my PR. I think the opposite is what's taking effect right now. I think that people are being reminded of just how beautifully saintly Diana was. I know she wasn't perfect, but in comparison to what we have today, she seemed pretty saintly compared to what Meghan Markle is in the flesh in 2025 and has always been since she married Harry. And this is a lot of the gripes that many of us have with Meghan Markle. We don't just pick on her just to pick on her because it's easy views and easy engagement. It's because she built herself up to be this caricature of charitability and of representation and of fairness and goodness, and she didn't live up to any of that. She didn't even try. And the more she and Harry insist that she's Diana-like, the more we get instances of evidence that prove that she's not. Probably the most damning of which being that Diana's own siblings do not agree with Harry's sentiment that Meghan is just like their late sister. And I am very grateful that InStyle came out with this profile, giving us pleasant reminders of who Princess Diana was, of her charitability, of the causes that she cared about that are still pressing even today. And for Meghan's PR, this was yet another swing and a miss because she is nothing like Diana. She is her own entity, and unfortunately, that is not associated with anything charitable, generous, kind, common, or courageous. Those are my thoughts. My friends, if you made it all the way to the end of the video, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'd love to hear your comments down below. Did you also read the profile that InStyle recently did about Princess Diana? Would love to know your thoughts. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up so that other people on YouTube can discover it. Also, if you like my content, consider hitting the subscribe button so that you never go away. You can always see whenever I upload and see my playlists, everything I have on YouTube. Otherwise, my friends, thank you so much for joining me, and I will catch up with you in the next video. Take care. You've just watched one of my videos, but did you know there's an entire Antoinetteverse? On my namesake YouTube channel, I dive into current events and share my critical commentary. Over on Instagram, you can keep up with my life as a writer and educational specialist. On the Write Life blog, I explore how reading, writing, and emotional expression help us to grow. And on my Substack, I publish personal essays and sometimes share sneak peeks from my upcoming book. Wherever you join me, thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.